Hello and welcome to today's webinar on PlayPosit playlists. Thank you for joining us today. And as we're getting started, if you could just share in the chat your experience level with PlayPosit. 1, if you've never used it before, 2, if you've used it, and 3, if you use it regularly in your role. And speaking of your role, if you could also share what your role is and how you either currently or plan to use interactive video, that would be helpful context for today's session. And again, welcome to those who are just joining. I will leave this up for a moment as folks share those 2 pieces of information in the chat. All right, so far looks like we've got a wide range of experience levels here. Excellent. Great, thank you for that context, Sam. Awesome, keep those, hi Deja, good to see you in the chat. Keep those coming in the chat. And in the meantime, I am gonna share a link. This link is to the interactive handout for today's session. And I'm also joined by my colleague, Stephanie, who will be supporting in the chat for any questions that come up along the way. All right, but that handout that I just put in the chat has a few resources here and some kind of step-by-step instructions on some of the features we'll talk about today in PlayPosit. So feel free to bookmark that. You can reference it either during the session or after, but hopefully you find that helpful. So again, welcome everyone. Thank you for sharing those experience levels and some folks sharing about your role as well. Great. With that, I'll just introduce myself briefly. My name is Dylan Blatt, and I'm a customer success manager at PlayPosit, which is powered by WeVideo. I am kind of the designated point person for a handful of K-12 districts and higher ed institutions around the country. And my role is to support folks with getting the most out of the PlayPosit tool. My background originally is in education. I'm a former teacher and instructional coach, and so that's the context that I'm bringing to our learning today. Just to set some session norms briefly, when we have these sessions, I like to ask folks to be courageous and speak up if you have questions or ideas. We'd love to hear those. You can use that chat throughout the session. And again, as I mentioned, my colleague Stephanie is here supporting in the chat as well. If you have questions, do not feel like you need to wait till the end. You can ask those at any point. And then whenever we are asking questions or thinking today about some of the context we're discussing, let's keep the learner in mind at the forefront of our conversations. I also realize that if you're watching us live today, it's a Thursday afternoon here on the East Coast. So kind of coming towards the end of the week, I appreciate you doing whatever you can to stay engaged. And last but not least is innovate. If you have ideas, interesting use cases that you've either tried or thinking about trying with our tool, would love to hear those. Some of the best features that we have in PlayPosit have come from ideas from folks like you. So appreciate any feedback that you have during today's session. All right, and if there's anything to add to that list, other norms or expectations that you have, I'd be happy to hear those as well. But to get right into it, here's our plan for this session today. So for those folks who are newer to the tool, in particular, I'll give you that overview of what PlayPosit is, at least just briefly, and then we'll share some resources that you can use to learn a bit more along the way. I do want to give you a chance to experience what the learner will see in a playlist. So we'll have a few moments to do that early on in the session. Then we'll share a few use cases that we have seen, kind of a wide spectrum of use cases in the world of playlists. Talk about a few of the features that are built into that application. And then I'll show you how to actually build and assign a playlist. And then I'll give you some time to try doing that on your own as well if you're new to the tool. Of course, we'll share some resources to help you along the way. But with that, let's dive right in. And again, keep any questions or comments in the chat. We would love to hear those. All right, PlayPosit overview. So one piece of vocab for the newer folks out there, when we use the word bulb, we're talking about the interactive video that is created inside of PlayPosit. It's kind of the end product. So when I say bulb, I'm talking about interactive video and PlayPosit, which is kind of our core functionality. But for today, we're going to be talking about that kind of highlighted bullet point there, the playlist, which is really a comprehensive learning solution that includes multiple bulbs or multiple interactive videos and potentially other resources such as PDFs, images, directions, websites, and kind of so on from there. But just to give those newer folks a quick intro here, that bulb, that interactive video is super flexible. So it can be deployed or assigned asynchronously. So it can be a self-paced bulb where learners engage potentially through their learning management system. And the instructor has the data they can monitor and hold learners accountable and get the insight into their learning through that experience. You can also assign it as what's called a learner-made bulb. So in that kind of student-centered way, the learner will have access to create their own interactive videos and sort of have the keys to the instructional design studio in that setup. Again, the playlist is going to be what we're focusing on today. It's sort of a one-stop shop for multiple interactive videos and supporting resources that we can create all in one nice link. And then last but not least, we do have a synchronous option where you can assign a bulb and then broadcast it. And that is where the instructor controls the flow in real time of the video and can kind of pause and address learning gaps as they come up. And the learner will submit responses from their device. So the bulb is that core function, interactive video. It is super flexible. And today we're focusing on the playlist. I also just want to name, just going back for one moment, playlists are an add-on application in PlayPosit. So you may or may not have access to that in your current institution's license. If it's something that you, as we go on today and you realize, hey, I actually don't have playlists right now, you can reach out to success@wevideo.com and we can get you some help along the way to add that to the license if that's something that you're interested in. But at least for today, you'll get to learn a bit more about it and kind of see it in action. I just want to name that up front. It's an add-on, so you may not have it, but hopefully you do. All right. Again, part of the overview is sort of the why here behind PlayPosit. So folks who use the tool, enjoy using the tool, typically find that is because of 1, 2, or 3 reasons. So a lot of people come to the tool and use it for increased accountability, taking that passive learning experience and making it more active, right? You have the data that you'll be able to use to monitor how are learners doing, how much are they watching of the video, what are the responses that they're sharing as they engage. And with that engagement comes better content retention. So we have an embedded notepad that learners can use to take time-stamped, searchable and exportable notes throughout that experience. And then in terms of accessibility, we definitely take this very seriously. So we have interactive searchable transcripts, closed captions can be enabled, and we are screen reader compatible as well as WCAG 2.3 compliant, just to name a few of those kind of whys. And in terms of the data, these stats, the sources are here in the bottom left corner, but really these stats speak to sort of the why behind interactive video. It's more engaging, it's more memorable, and then ultimately what it comes down to is that learners typically improve their knowledge retention and view the content for longer. So some of the why there in terms of the data. Now that's just a brief overview. Again, PlayPosit really, it's an instructional design studio allowing you to create interactive videos and assign those out to learners. But for today, I want to show you what the learner experience is like with a playlist. So I'm going to put a link in the chat. You can go ahead and either click that or copy and paste it into your browser. And then I've actually kept this playlist unlocked in a way where you can click around and explore however you would like. So feel free to do that. And then whenever you're done, you can kind of let us know in the chat. But I'll start a 5-minute timer just so that we stay on track. And Hampton, I can definitely go ahead and share the deck with you, no problem. Okay, in the chat is the link to this particular playlist. I'm going to go on mute and start our 5 minutes, but enjoy exploring and let us know if you have questions or observations along the way. All right, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for taking a few minutes there to engage with that playlist. And hopefully that was helpful to just give you some perspective on what the learner experience could be like for this particular example. The purpose of that activity was twofold. One, to give you that learner experience, and then two, to show you what sort of data and monitoring you'll have access to from assigning a playlist. So I'm going to actually bring over the monitor page that I was looking at while you all were engaging, and I was kind of hitting the refresh button here just to see where people were at. So I can see, learners. In this case, some of them are anonymous, but I can also see the playlist score, how much time has been spent, the status of that engagement, and then for each particular either bulb or resource, what the completion status or score was. And I can actually drill down into any of these and click further and see, for that particular bulb or interactive video, how did my learners do and where are the learning gaps there? I can filter, search, or even export this data as well. So there's a lot here. We have a whole training around data and analytics in PlayPosit, but I just want to give you a brief intro to show you what this looks like. And if you're using a learning management system, you'll have the monitor button built right into that assignment that you create, and you'll be able to access this page right there as well. And for any of those bulbs that have questions that learners are going to earn points for, you can automatically use the grade sync feature if you're accessing the tool through a learning management system. So that is super helpful to know. All right, excellent. And if there is any feedback or questions out there from that experience, again, feel free to pop those in the chat. But at this point, I wanted to share with you all 3 examples of some use cases. This is not going to be a comprehensive or exhaustive list by any means, but just a few ideas to get you thinking about how you might use playlists in your role. So one, this is sort of an academic use case. We have, a unit of study here that learners will engage with, and this one's on the topic of natural selection. And so you can see here in this particular playlist, we have some, let's make that full screen, some directions here at the top that learners will read, and then they'll watch this bulb, this interactive video, and they'll engage with the interactions throughout the video. And then the second module that's set up is actually a virtual lab, which has some separate directions and a PDF guide, as well as a website that's embedded here for learners to engage with that lab assignment. And then there's actually an exit ticket, right? Sort of a mini quiz for them in the form of another interactive video. And when they complete that, they'll get access to a certificate, which is great for that completion at the end. So just a brief overview of that example. A couple things that you can keep in mind for this one is you can lock or unlock the progression. And so what that means is we can ensure that learners are, if it's locked, that they're going to go in order and they can't access the next resource until they've finished the previous ones. If it's unlocked, then sort of more of like a choice board and choose your own adventure. And that's the way that the playlist that you just engaged with is set up. So you can kind of jump around because it was unlocked. You can set a minimum score for bulbs to make sure that learners have reached a certain level of competency or mastery before moving on. You can attach files like this PDF that you see here, and you can embed websites, or in this case, a virtual lab simulation as well. So a lot of flexibility in the way you set up that learning experience. But this is a really great tool for something like a particular unit of study, especially if there's some scaffolding involved and it needs to kind of build as the learners engage more with that topic. Okay, now another example that we see is around setting expectations for learners. Maybe it's the foundation of a course, the beginning of the semester, or there's something new, an initiative that's happening, and we need to be really clear about what's expected. And so we'll see folks setting up modules like, here's an intro, right, on the particular instructor. Here's some of the course expectations and overview. That could look like, again, a website or a document like a Google Doc or PDF, or maybe some slides that are being shared in the form of PDF. There can also be a Google form that's shared for learners to agree to some of the expectations and policies, like around plagiarism or expectations for this particular course. There can even be a learner feedback form as well. So a bit more engaging and comprehensive way to set up expectations for a course of study at the beginning of a semester. Great, and this can also apply to something like student orientation. Maybe there's multiple resources that need to be shared, and this is kind of a one-click or one-link way to put that out there, and then track the engagement on that monitor page and the compliance in some cases as well. Okay, and one more example I wanted to share, more of a non-academic use case here, could be around onboarding. And this could be for learners, could be for teachers or instructors. It could even be for families if we're talking about maybe a K-12 district here. And that can include things like a campus tour or a tour of the learning management system that learners are going to be using for potentially the first time. Maybe some schedules or registration information. Could be a map of the campus or information on athletics or other activities, different policies. So there's really no limit to the way you can use this tool, but just want to give you some ideas for how that can be leveraged. The other thing to mention here is the way that I assigned you all that playlist earlier was an anonymous or public link. And so for example, if there's families that maybe don't have a PlayPosit account in the district, that's okay. You can assign it publicly. You can set it up so that they have to just type their name for tracking purposes, but otherwise super accessible there without even setting up an account in that example. So a couple ideas to hopefully get the ball rolling for you. If you either have used some of these use playlists in some of these ways, or you have other ideas, would love to hear those. So please, again, consider sharing those in the chat. But at this point, I do want to just show you a couple of features before we get in there and build. And so, you've seen some of them now in these use cases, but to get really specific, you have a lot of control over the way you design content. So when you get into the playlist designer, you can change the color, kind of the theme there. You can build out individual modules, change the titles. Of course, you can add these interactive videos, which we call bulbs. You can add additional resources. You can change the titles of those. So there's a ton of control over the way you design the content. It's really up to you about how you sort of want to order that and how you want learners to experience this particular playlist. So number one is around the content design. Two is about accountability. So I mentioned this earlier, but you can set a minimum completion score for a particular bulb. So if you say, hey, this learners need to get an 80% or higher on this particular interactive video before they can move on to the next part, you can set that up. We can also, like I mentioned, lock the progression, so they have to go in order before moving on. And then for things like a PDF, they'll have to scroll to the bottom to achieve completion there. So there is some degree of accountability. And when it comes to the monitor page, that's really where you get the insight into how learners are engaging and if they're meeting the expectations that you have. The other cool piece about playlists that's different than just a typical bulb is that you can enable certificates. You can actually customize those a bit with a particular badge or signature that you wanted to upload. So I'll show you how you can do that. But it's just a nice way to kind of close out the learning experience. And for you, it can also be evidence that learners or potentially teachers can share for some form of credit for that time they've spent learning. So those are a couple of key pieces. So content design, accountability, and then certificates are a couple of features. At this point, I want to spend hopefully a good chunk of our time together building and actually assigning a playlist and showing you exactly how that works. And so to do that, I just want to name the couple steps here that you would follow. If you are newer to PlayPosit, this may be super helpful. If not, it might be just a familiar refresher for you. So if you're using a learning management system like Canvas or Blackboard, for example, or Schoology, you can launch PlayPosit from your learning management system. And you would just do that by adding an assignment or adding material and clicking on the PlayPosit option. If you have particular questions about a learning management system, please put those in the chat. We can help you get the resource you need for that workflow. But it sounds like some folks on this call today have used PlayPosit, probably know how to access that tool. And then once you get to the playlist functionality, we're really just going to focus on adding some bulbs, adding other resources, and then adjusting the settings to how we want before we link that back to our assignment in our course. And then you can monitor from that assignment or that material, you can monitor the data. I mentioned this earlier, but really one of the big selling points for using PlayPosit in an LMS is that the integration allows you to sync your gradebook back and authenticate learners. So this is kind of the typical and maybe most common way that we see folks accessing PlayPosit, but we also have a non-LMS login option as well. So you can, on our sign-in page, playposit.com/login, you can also go to these options: Google, Microsoft Office, Clever, ClassLink, or log in with an email and password if you have that handy. And then you can monitor progress from the PlayPosit classes page. So just want to name that is an option as well, but really it's up to you what is most comfortable. If you have any questions about logging in or accessing the tool, let us know. Okay. All right, with that, I'm going to open up PlayPosit, and I'm actually just going to go straight into kind of the website here rather than using the learning management system. And that is because I want to make the most of our time together learning about playlists. Okay, now if you are in PlayPosit, and maybe I'll just give everybody, I apologize, I'll give everybody maybe 30 seconds to a minute to get there if you wanted to follow along with me. So let me just pause and see if anyone needs more time. Okay, hopefully that gave you a chance to get into PlayPosit if you're looking to follow along here. You also will have some time after I run through the demo to work on your own, so no rush there. But I'm now in my PlayPosit account here, and when you log into PlayPosit, you typically land on the My Bulbs page. But if you're going to build a playlist, you just need to go to the menu on the left side and then kind of scroll down to where it says Playlists here and click on that tab. When you do that, you'll see a button in the top left corner that says Add New Playlist. And when you click on that button, it will open you into our playlist designer. So this is kind of what it looks like by default. But just to start, you can go ahead and scroll on this little toggle here and change the color of your particular playlist. Maybe you even have kind of the hex code here like I do, and you want to change it to match the branding of your institution. You can also change the title. We'll call this one Playlist Webinar, October 3rd, 2024. So you can change that right there. And again, I'm just typing on my keyboard to do that. And then you can build out the modules, kind of the structure of your playlist by clicking Add Module here. And you can do that multiple times. I'm just going to go out right now and build 4 different modules. And then if I want to change the title of those, I can simply click in and then on my keyboard, just use my backspace button there and type whatever the name of my modules are. And let me actually look at my lesson plan here. All right, so I'm going to use, and I'm just going to use the shortcut on my keyboard, but I'm going to build out kind of a mini playlist here on how to build a playlist, how to assign a playlist, monitor. So I'm just going to click in and paste those from my keyboard. And my 4th one will be some resources. So super easy to just click in and type or copy and paste to change those module names. The other cool thing is you can click and then drag and drop. So let's just say these are in the wrong order. You can easily move those around to fix that. So just click into the module and drag and drop, and that will save. Up here in the top right, you can see the pop-up that says updated course. Okay, so I've got my structure, I've got my modules set up. Now I want to add some resources, right? I want to add my bulbs, maybe some other supporting resources. So to do that, I'll just click the Add Bulbs button. And when I do that, I'll see kind of a side menu here of recent bulbs that I can either grab or search for. So mine, I believe, have the word module in them. So I'm going to search for the word module here. And then the nice thing you can do is you can actually bring in multiple bulbs kind of in one shot. So let's say I want to bring in this one, this one, this one. I'm just going to click all three of those. It says 3 bulbs queued. And then when I'm ready to actually exit this menu and actually move those around, I can click the Add Bulbs button in the top right corner. So now I've got all 3 of them, but of course they're not in the right place. So I'm going to just drag that down and drop, just like I did with the module headers, drag and drop. And just like that, I've got my 3 bulbs that I already created and put them in this playlist. Now, you might be building a playlist and say, you know what, I actually don't have a bulb for this yet, but I want to build it out. The good news is you don't have to go out to sort of the main PlayPosit view over here. You don't have to go there. You can just click Create New Bulb right from within the playlist designer here. And so I can do that, or even create a learner-made bulb if I click the drop down. So I just want to point that option out. You can go right here. It'll open a new tab and create your, set up a place to create your bulb right there. Okay, you can also click the gear icon next to a bulb and change the settings or edit it or remove it. So that is no problem if you change your mind on any of those aspects there. And then the other really powerful piece, right, it's not just adding in these interactive videos, although that it might be the core of what you're doing here, is the supporting resources. So let's go ahead and say I've got some resources for module 4 that I want to add. So I can click, instead of add bulbs, I can click add other. And then just to give you a little orientation here, you can add a PDF, doc, CSV, image, any attachment right there. So by just clicking that, and I don't think you'll see it, but on my screen I have a pop-up showing me my device locations that I can grab from. You can also add a website here as a web embed. So that virtual lab that we talked about earlier is just a website that I pulled in. This is also the way you would do something like add a Google Doc. So I'm going to see if my link works here. I'm just going to paste that in. Yep, great. And I get a little preview of this particular Google Doc. So I can kind of scroll, make sure it looks good, and click Add Link. Now notice that the link is the title here, but I can easily click into that and change this to Playlist Resource Guide. So again, just click into any of the text items here. You can easily highlight or type on your keyboard to change that. And then maybe I'll add one more website here. How about one of our knowledge base articles? I'm just going to copy that and paste it in here using my keyboard shortcut. When I click out of that URL field, I should see a preview. And then I can add that link. Again, just want to change that to playlist help article. And then last but not least, I do want to just show kind of the text option of adding directions, which I think is a good way to start off any particular playlist that you are working on. So maybe in the beginning here, in module 1, I'll add other. And then under text item, you can put sort of the header here. So I will call this, I'm going to copy and paste from my lesson plan, directions, how to build a playlist. And then you can type or copy and paste any directions, instructions here that you have. The cool thing about the text option in the playlist is that it's pretty flexible, right? You can change the formatting here using some of these buttons here at the bottom, make a bulleted list, change some parts of it to bold. I can even kind of move that, make sure it's left aligned. You can also insert images, links, tables, special characters as well, if that's helpful. There's a lot of formatting options. And so I just wanted to kind of give you that quick preview there. But I'll click Add Text, and I'll make sure that I drag that to the top so it's the first thing my learners see. Now, just to give you a quick preview of how we're doing so far, in the top right, you'll see a toggle that says Edit Mode. If you click that toggle, you'll switch to Preview Mode, and this is exactly what the playlist will look like for learners. So you can kind of see it looks a little bit more formatted here. Got my directions, my bulbs, my other resources here at the bottom. And I can click in and jump around on those and actually check out how that is appearing for my learners. I can hide the menu here with those 3 bars. But let me go back to toggle to edit mode, because at this point, although I've built out the content, I might want to adjust some of the settings, and I would love to show you how that works here. So as you may have seen in the middle of the screen, there are a couple drop downs. So the first one is settings, and really that is just going to give you the playlist ID and the toggle that you can use to lock or unlock the progression. And again, that just means that learners, if it's locked, will have to go in order and complete the previous items before moving forward. They won't be able to get access to the next element until they've completed the previous. So you can toggle that off or on. Totally up to you. In this case, I will leave it open and unlocked. You can adjust the visibility, which will not impact the way learners see this content, but those at your institution, other teachers or instructors who maybe you might want to share that with. So you can adjust that visibility there. You can also tag the playlist for easier organization or sharing by particular content area or audience. And then last but not least is the certificate settings. So you can, by default, there's no certificate enabled automatically, but you can very easily toggle that on. And then you can upload an attachment here if you have a particular playlist badge. And I'm going to just do that from my desktop right now. Maybe you have a signature that you want to upload as well. And again, you're not seeing the pop-up, but I'm selecting from my computer, my device, those files. You can also add a message. Congrats. And you can preview that. So if I click preview, I'll get a quick view on what that would look like. There's my signature at the bottom left, my badge I uploaded at the bottom right, and my message a little bit small there. It says congrats. Okay, so that's the brief overview of the playlist tool. If you're newer to PlayPosit, you might be wondering, well, how do I build a bulb? That is a conversation for probably another webinar that we can share with you, but we do have some resources I'll share towards the end around the customer resources page, and that will hopefully get you started along the way. All right, if there are any questions, keep those coming in the chat. I see a few have been asked, and it looks like Stephanie's been helping answer those, so thank you, Steph, and thank you to everyone asking those questions. But at this point, we've built our content, we've adjusted the settings, we feel like it's ready to go. Let's get this thing to our learners. So we can, if we're in the learning management system, let's just say Canvas, for example, we can save and exit this and go back to our Canvas course and then publish that out to the course. Learners will have access right there. But if we're not using an LMS and we just want to assign this outside of that space, we can click this assign button in the top right corner. And that will take you to this window where you can pick which course you're assigning it to or which class in PlayPosit. So I set one up called 10/3/24 webinar. I'll pick a due date. Maybe I'll make it next Friday, the 11th. And then I can just click this link button to grab the link. Now I do want to point out some of the advanced settings here. You can adjust who will be able to access this link. So by default, it'll be a learner account only, but you can easily adjust that so that instructors are the ones, maybe it's professional learning that they need to access this for. You can make it so that it's public for potentially families or folks that don't have a PlayPosit account, or you can make it more flexible. So instructor or learner, maybe everybody, at a particular district needs to engage with this video. And whenever you have that particular button clicked in the way that you would like, you can copy that link or grab this QR code and copy that and put it wherever you need. So that is the easy way to assign there. And then once I've done that, my playlist is right here in the top of my playlist page. And I can click the little icon on the left or the action 3 dots on the right, and there'll be a button that says monitor. And that is where I can monitor data. If you're in a learning management system, it'll be right inside the assignment for you. There'll be a button that says monitor, and you'll be able to see all the modules, resources, how learners have engaged, and make whatever decisions based on your role that you need with that data. Whew, okay, that was a lot of information. Hopefully you're getting the sense that there's a lot of customization available, but it's pretty user-friendly to play around with the playlist tool. And I hope that you'll find that in the next few minutes here as you engage on your own. So it's now your turn to build a playlist or start building playlists maybe edit one that you might have started. But here are the steps, and I'll do another kind of 5-minute timer on my phone here. But ultimately, what I'd like you to do with this time is access PlayPosit either through your learning management system or single sign-on. Create a playlist from that playlist tab on the left, add new playlist, and then add some bulbs if you've got them already, or you can create one or two, add some resources maybe you have, adjust the settings a bit, try adjusting the color or the lock progression, and then assign that out. So these are your steps and some brief instructions, but if you have questions along the way, please let us know. I'll put another 5 minutes on the clock. And from here, we'll share a few resources to support you along the way. But I know hands-on experience is helpful. So I'm going to go, again, on mute, off camera. We'll see you in the chat, and see you back in about 5 minutes. All right, welcome back, everyone. That was about 5 minutes. So hopefully you're starting to get comfortable using playlists in PlayPosit. And for those who have any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat as we are closing out our session for today. But first, a couple more questions and resources for you. So some commonly asked questions that we see. Number one, is there a bulb or resource limit to playlists? The good news is the answer is no. You can include as many bulbs and resources as you need. So no worries there. Sky's the limit. The second question is, how are playlists graded? So similar to bulbs, you take the total score earned and divide that by the total score available. And that will be calculated for a playlist. It's kind of the overall score for all the bulbs inside that playlist. So we take all the points that a learner earns from bulbs in a playlist, divided by the total points available. That'll be their score. And for similar to bulbs, there may be some manual grading involved if you have open response or free response or discussion interactions there as well. Okay, for number 3 and 4, can playlists or bulbs be edited once they're assigned? The answer is yes. And we often see folks kind of editing, semester to semester or year to year to adjust content based on feedback or different needs. But we recommend not making those edits if possible when the course is live in the middle of a semester or school year. And then the last piece is, what are the collaboration options for playlists? We know that sometimes folks use playlists with colleagues, and so I'll be sharing a bit more on that on the next slide here. So when you have a playlist that you've created, you can click on, and I'll just go back here real quick to show you. You can click on that playlist, and you can click this collaborate option. It's the 5th one down. And then from there, you'll see an option to enter maybe a colleague or someone else's email, and you can either give them edit access to actually collaborate and edit your own playlist there, or you can give them access to view it and assign it. And so they wouldn't be able to make changes, but can use it as sort of facilitator there of that playlist. You also can do something called duplicate. So when you click that option, that menu option here, let me show that one more time. You'll see the third from the bottom, it says duplicate. That'll just copy that playlist within your own account. Maybe you need to make a second version of it, do some editing. So that is kind of within your own account, but a way to copy it. And then if you want to copy it and share that copy with other folks, you can use the copy option there, which was just below that. And that will allow for some modifications from whoever you share that with. Okay, so a few options for collaborating there. The other option I do want to just mention here is that if you are, aware that someone else has built a playlist, or curious if someone else has built a playlist that you might want to use or can meet the needs that you have, we have our pre-made bulbs library, but this actually includes playlists as well. So on the menu on the left side, below playlists is pre-made bulbs. You'll see a bucket of media for your district or institution, as well as one for all of PlayPosit, at least for anything that's been shared publicly. And then if you search here, you'll be able to search by either bulbs or playlists, or you can search by keyword or creator last name. If you don't see the playlist dropdown, it's probably because you don't have playlists in your account just yet. But of course, you can ask about that. And I mentioned this earlier, but just email success@weavevideo.com. We can kind of help you figure that out. So again, leverage that pre-made bulbs, pre-made playlists library. And then for some additional support, our customer resources page is kind of the one-stop shop for all things PlayPosit, including our academy, self-paced trainings here, webinars like the one you're watching right now, use cases like a lot of the examples we talked about earlier, the help articles, which is searchable, super helpful, as the name indicates. Office hours, Stephanie mentioned in the chat earlier, but those are twice a week. You can get some one-on-one or maybe small group support there if you need. And so I can put that link in the chat directly for the customer resources page. But as well, you can find that on the left side menu here. It's actually the last option here down at the bottom. So that'll take you right to this page that we were just talking about here. And hopefully that will be a helpful kind of first place to look for support. Additionally, we have our YouTube tutorials, short and sweet, super helpful. You can access that by just searching for PlayPosit on YouTube, but I'm going to give you the direct link as well. That's a great place to get started with some short tutorials if you need. Additionally, actually, let me just show that real quick because I think it's important to just mention that you can also access on our YouTube page, not just these short videos here, but the live tab will have some of our previously recorded webinars. I know that was asked about earlier. Here's a great place you can check out the recordings from webinars that we've run in the past. All right, and then one thing I did want to take a moment to mention is that our team has created a playlist with a few different modules for you all to learn some new skills in PlayPosit. And it's called our PlayPosit Creator Challenge. So now that you've been kind of familiarized with playlists, you'll kind of understand how this is set up. There's a few modules. There's going to be one for each month, September, October, November. And in the modules, there will be 2 different bulbs, an example video and a tutorial, as well as a learner-made bulb practice challenge. You know, for folks who already completed this, hopefully you found that helpful in learning some new skills. But feel free to, I'm going to put the link in the chat. You can check this out on your own or share it out with people that you think it could be helpful for. But this is a great way to get some level up skills in PlayPosit, and you can also get a certificate as well at the end, as we talked about. So check that out if you have. We think it'll take about 20 minutes per module, or 1 hour total for all 3 modules. Check it out if you have the time. Would really love to hear any feedback you have on that as well. Okay, we've got a few extra minutes. I'm going to put up this question slide. And additionally, in the bottom right corner, you can see our technical support and success team emails if you need either of those. And I'll stick around for a couple more minutes if any questions come up. But I really just want to say thanks so much for joining today, as Stephanie put in the chat, and thanks for your interest in PlayPosit playlists. Again, it's an add-on application, so if you don't have access to it currently, don't fret, just reach out to us and we'll see if we can help you out with that. And if you do have access, hopefully you'll find great ways to implement that tool in your practice right away. But thanks again for the time and for your interest. And we will be sticking around for another minute or 2 for any questions that come up. All right, I'm just seeing one more question in the chat. So thank you, Beth, for that question. A bulb is our interactive video in PlayPosit. So you can take a video, add interactions on top of it, and assign that video to learners, either inside a learning management system or just assigning the link outside of that. The playlist is sort of a more comprehensive learning solution we talked about today, where you can take more than one bulb, more than one interactive video, and put it in sort of a playlist, right, with additional resources around it as well. So the playlist is sort of a more comprehensive learning solution that builds out more than one bulb and more than one resource potentially in kind of a one-stop shop way. So hopefully that's helpful to distinguish there. If there's more questions, definitely reach out. Again, the emails are there on the screen, but we are going to close out at this point. And I just want to say thanks again. Have a great rest of your day. Awesome, Beth. Thanks. Great rest of your day. Great rest of your week. And take care. And we'll see you next time for future webinars, hopefully.